Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to the premier Sage Talk event, Empowering Others. My name is Mitch Creighton. I'm one of the 4 founding sages of Sage Talks. Sage Talks began with 4 people who have been in the Toastmaster International Organization for many, many years. And we said, you know, we're great storytellers. We're also great businessmen. And we probably have some ideas that we think that other folks might learn from. So we met as a mastermind group, and that mastermind group grew over time to the point where we now said, well, you know, it's time that we go out into the world and share our message. And before we share our message today, I do want to take one moment and just give tribute to the 5th Sage Talker. Luke Moens also was a Toastmaster, and we do not know why, but as he was giving a presentation, he left the stage, went to the restroom, and that was the last. And so we honor Luke as we move forward with Sage Talks, and we hope that you will enjoy our presentations tonight. So as you see, we're all about empowering others, and this is a sampler on the order of TED Talks, so that you'll have 14, 16, 18 minutes to evaluate who we are. And hopefully you'll get some new information, you'll be entertained. But if you also happen to have an organization that would love to have a speaker, remember sage-talks.com. Now, a little bit of homework. We have water and cookies, as you probably know, right outside, straight ahead. Just when you get to the lobby and straight ahead are the restrooms in case you do need them. And we don't want you turning blue. So feel free to get up and go to the restroom if you need to. So I'm going to move forward then and tell you that we have 4 great speakers on 4 wonderful topics. And I'll begin by introducing our first speaker. And Robert Case is an author. He is a speaker and an advocate for health in midlife and beyond. Educated in science and law, his resume includes careers in both government and business, including many years practicing human services law in Jefferson County here in Colorado. More than that, his story includes dropping out of college in 1972 to hitchhike around Europe. He fell in love and began the research that would become the foundation of his latest novel, Icarus and the Wing Builder. Robert lives in Denver, Colorado, where he writes, delivers keynotes, and serves as a spokesperson for 9News Health Fair. Would you all please give a warm welcome to Robert Case, The Gift. The Gift. Robert Case. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so good to see you all here tonight. You know, we're here to talk about empowering others. And the point I want to make is that when that's the topic, everything we do matters. You have to believe everything we say matters. You just can't get too hung up on what the outcome is going to be. You can't give a gift like that and expect to be able to leave strings attached. One Christmas, several years ago, my wife and I, we received a gift from a good friend. Salad dressing pros, fancy ones, kind with matching stopper tops and oil in one bottle, vinegar in the other. But to read the labels, you'd have thought that whoever created this olive oil had been a double major, English and marketing, and maybe a little European history thrown in, that these were just the most elegant salad dressing creation there could be. So there shouldn't have been much surprise then the next summer. Our friend that gave us that gift is over. We're having dinner on the patio, simple barbecue. She looks at the table. You forgot my salad dressing set. Well, no. Oh, let me just run into the kitchen and I'll get it. And she came back out with this hurt look on her face. Because the bottles weren't even opened yet. And that's what I mean by when you give a gift with strings attached, especially when it's to empower someone else. When you want to lift someone else up, when you want them to elevate, don't attach too many strings. Don't get attached to the outcome. Because a gift like that, it can empower. It has that potential. Gifts are like that. So too, the example we set, just like it was back in the 1980s, when a group of engineers and scientists from MIT decided they would set the world's record for the longest self-propelled human flight. That's right. Self-propelled. Raise your hands if you believe that humans can fly. A few people. Good. There really was a record. And there really was some prize money involved. You see, there's a society called the British Aeronautical Society. And they keep track of these kinds of things, these kinds of records. They also offer £100,000, a British pound, prize reward for setting a new one. And in the mid-1980s, when this team from MIT sat down to consider this challenge, the record they had to beat was a flight across the English Channel. I believe it was in 1976. The airplane was called the Gossamer Albatross. And a single pilot bicyclist cranked that propeller 22 miles across the English Channel. So who did this team from MIT look to for their inspiration, for their empowerment? The Wright brothers? Nah. No, they went back. They went way back, about 4,000 years, to the middle of the Bronze Age, when an early aviator by the name of Daedalus decided to design and build wings. So what do we know about Daedalus? Well, we know he was an inventor. He was the kind of individual, he had that kind of mind that this team from MIT would be attracted to. There would be some symbiosis there. He could take an idea, something intangible, and turn it around in his head enough times to create something of value for himself and his friends, his family, his community. In fact, on his home island of Crete, he built the first saw, and he used it to build a dance floor on the island of Crete, which was where he lived. This thing was so popular, nobody else had it. The king of the island, the king named Minos, learned of it, and he hired Daedalus to build weatherproof cobblestone roads across the island. And he also hired Daedalus to build a complex labyrinth underneath his palace. So Daedalus built this career for himself. He was a builder of stone and wood, working for the king. And it went on like that for a long time. Until something happened, and he decided to become a creator of wings. That's his story. But the reason that resonates with the team from MIT is because Daedalus had the task not only of building wings for himself, but for his son, Icarus. And then he had to persuade his son, his teenage son, empower his son to test those wings, to put them on, and to fly with him, or wherever else he might choose to go. So, let's go back to 1988. We're on the island of Crete. The city is called Heracleion. It's an airport. April. The MIT team, scientists, engineers, these are people, they have degrees in material science, aeronautical engineering, organic chemistry, everything you need to know in order to build an airplane that is lightweight and flexible in all the places where it needs flexible strength, and rigid and lightweight in all the places that you need that to have a single airplane that's capable of beating that record. And the record they want to beat, of course, it's the flight that Daedalus took. 70 miles from Crete all the way to Santorini. The plane, the wingspan, it's over 100 feet long. Weighs less than 70 pounds. That's without the pilot. And these engineers and scientists, they come from that place of intelligentsia, of knowledge. To pilot that plane, they had to go somewhere else. They wanted someone with heart. In fact, they wanted someone with advanced heart function, and advanced lung function, and strength and endurance. They wanted somebody to pedal that bicycle for a long time and propel that airplane 70 miles across the sky. That particular attribute, the ancient Greeks called that arete. And there's lots of good endurance athletes out there. But they wanted to link to that ancestor. They wanted to link to that tradition of Daedalus and his flight across Crete, or across the Aegean from Crete to Santorini. So they had to choose a particular pilot. They didn't go with Lance Armstrong. No, they went with a Greek Olympic bicyclist, and his name was Kanolos Kanopoulos. And on April 23rd, 1988, in the cockpit of that plane, it's sunrise. Kanelos is heading down that runway, pedaling just as fast as he can. And what am I doing? He's doing it with his legs. And he gets to that point on the runway where his land speed is just enough that those wings are starting to lift. And this is where he has to go deep. He has to go even further to that place where he can elevate that airplane into the sky, just the way Daedalus had to do all those years ago. Can you imagine what it must have been like to stand on a hillside, sun coming up, wind in your face, long, fully functional wings, your own design. And you know that this is a perfect day for flight. In fact, it's probably the only day for flight. The only chance you'll ever have again to do this. And you look up ahead, and you see on that hillside, there's a rocky ledge sticking out from the earth, and that's exactly where you want to launch from. You don't want loose gravel. You know what that's like, to slip and fall just at the last minute when you feel like everybody's watching. No. Loose gravel won't do. Firm foundation is what he needs. Safety net? I don't think so. Nothing but rocks below and the sky above. And Daedalus takes off running down that hillside as fast as he could go. He plants his foot on that rock. He leaps up and out just as far as he can go. And he hangs suspended for just one moment. And that's when he leans forward into the wind and he's hit with a mighty gust. It lifts the wings. Daedalus soars. Just the way Kanelos did that day on the runway in Heraklion in 1988. He lifted that airplane into the sky, and the wings carried it out across the Aegean. I began thinking about all these things at the time of my own midlife crisis, if you will, my own midlife challenge, about the time my own kids were in high school. It was 1999, 2000, 2001, those years. And both of them clearly demonstrating the desire to fly away from the suburban hideaway that they called Little Thunder. They went to Heritage. And each one was demonstrating independently their path. And I knew I was a single dad. It was my responsibility to encourage that, to motivate that the best that I could. But not to leave too many strings attached, because the goal was for them to find their own direction, to chart their own independence. And that's when I knew that if I was successful in that endeavor, in emancipating them, that my life was going to change, and change dramatically. So it was, what else could I do but start to write? I started taking creative writing classes. I started journaling. There were workshops. And in 2008, I launched my first book. The book launched. And 4 of you will win signed copies of that book later tonight. In 2014, I launched my second book. And Mitch, thank you for introducing that, Icarus and the Wing Builder. We can talk later this evening. If you have any interest at all, any questions about the book or getting a signed first edition, that's also a possibility. Right now, though, we got to finish that story. We know that Daedalus made it all the way to Santorini. What about this plane? What about the plane named the Daedalus? Of course they named it that. What else would they name it? Kanolos piloted that plane. It was an uneventful flight. They even had a tailwind. And in just under 4 hours, they made it to the island of Santorini. And that's when Kanolos turned the plane to make a landing onto the beach. And he's been up there for about 4 hours. Pretty tired guy by now. And just as the one wing goes out across the beach, the heat that's rising off the sand lifts that wing. And the other wing goes down into the sea. And the airplane called the Daedalus land. No, it doesn't land. It crashes right there in the sand of the island of Santorini. So it's not a foolproof landing. That's the way life goes. And these undaunted, these engineers congratulated each other. No one was hurt, by the way. They packed up those pieces of that airplane. They sent it back to Boston, happy with their world's record and the 100,000 British pounds that we could split. And you can see that plane anytime you want. You have to travel to Washington, D.C., though. It's hanging from a hangar at Dulles Airport. And I just have to ask, now how many believe that self-propelled human flight is possible? Yes.
If you look inside your bag, we have a bunch of goodies for all of you. You'll see that we actually have a copy of one of our speakers' books, but we also have an opportunity for you to invest in Icarus and the Wing Builder at a sizable special price for being here today and watching us at the Sage Talk event. Our next speaker, Greg Jameson. Greg has been named International Developer of the Year of the Colorado Small Businessman of the Year and listed in the Inc. 500 of America's fastest growing small companies. He's best-selling author of Amazon's Dirty Little Secrets. And here's a dirty little secret. You have a copy of that in your red bag. Today, Greg is going to teach others you how to market your business through online seminars, webinars, and workshops, because he's given hundreds of workshops to those and has actually put together a really cool thing called Web Stores University. I'm sure Greg will enlighten you to that. Would you all give a warm Sage Talk welcome to Greg Jameson. What is your ETA?
The great philosopher Homer Simpson said, "Son, if you really want something in life, you have to work for it." Now, quiet, they're about to announce the lottery numbers. ETA is a term that's frequently used to indicate estimated time of arrival. When will you arrive at your success? Like Homer, are you waiting to win the lottery? I like to think of ETA as expectations, thoughts, and actions. Now clearly, Our actions play a part in our success. But what about our expectations? Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Now, Amazon's founder and CEO, Jeff Bezos, clearly thought that he could build a company to compete with Walmart. And he didn't just wish that he could, he truly believed it. Many of our great leaders have these expectations out of themselves and others. The term reality distortion field was coined to indicate the effect that Steve Jobs had on others and what he expected others to be able to accomplish. Basically, he got other people to drink the Kool-Aid. Now, there was a interview where people were asked to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 on how much they perceived good things happening in their lives. 1 was, I don't know why everything bad's always happening to me. And 10 was, I don't know why everything good always happens to me. After that, they were given a test where they were asked to count the number of images in this newspaper. Now, buried inside this newspaper was a headline that said, if you're reading this headline, the answer is 37 photos. You can stop now and claim an extra $100. Now, the people that answered that first question with a 1, they may have eventually gotten the right answer of 37 photos, but they never saw that headline. Whereas the people that answered that question with a 10, they invariably saw that headline and claimed the $100. So our expectations do make a difference. I was given a seminar at the Denver Mart recently, and there were 2 presenters that went ahead of me. The first one had 9 people show up, and the second one had 11. My son Brian, who's here, was helping me, and he was setting up the video camera, and the director of the Mart came up and said, are you sure you want to do that? We're probably only going to get a handful of people. No, we're going to pack the room. Now, I expected to fill the room as well, but I didn't leave it to chance. I had taken out a few Facebook ads and sent out a couple of email blasts. But the result was that I ended up setting a new record at the Denver Mart for the most attendees there. Now, this level of expectation is true in all aspects of business. I have a friend, Eric Graham, who says that if you operate your business from a mindset of fear, the thing that you fear, you may actually cause that to happen. There's a story of a New York businessman that sent his daughter off to college. And while she was at college, she was taking a class in economics. And she called home one weekend and said, Dad, the economy is really bad. Maybe you should not spend so much money. And he thought, hey, you know, she's smarter than I am, and I sent her to college to learn these things. Maybe I ought to listen to her. So he stopped spending so much money on his advertising, and sure enough, his business went down. Like I said, you can't operate your business from a mindset of fear and scarcity. And the reason is that basically money is an amplifier. If you start to make more money, your fears that you had don't suddenly and magically go away. In fact, if you don't grow your mindset at the same time that you're increasing your income, you're likely to end up having those fears and uncertainties overtake things, which is why so many lottery winners, including Homer probably, end up broke. Like I said, money is a magnifier. If you are a kind and generous person when you don't have any money, then with money, you have an even greater opportunity to be generous. If you are a fearful and distrusting person when you don't have any money, then with money, you've got a million more reasons to be distrustful. In a business, if you understand that what you have to offer is something where you're actually increasing value, then you understand that business isn't a zero-sum game. I hear people all the time that say, you know, that there's this market out there, and if I can only get 1% of this market, then I'm going to be rich. But the fact is that that mindset doesn't work. You have to figure out how you can expand that market and increase value. You need to grow the size of the pie for everyone. Now, today we live in the golden age of internet marketing. And some of you might say, well, how can that possibly be? The internet's now over 20 years old, and Amazon is the undisputed leader in online sales. I already missed the boat. But now is the time that the size of that pie is actually growing. Let me explain. When the internet first started, it was all about the size of your email list. But if you didn't have a big list, it was a pretty selective group of who could be successful. Either had to have a big list or know somebody that did have a big list. And at the time, websites were clunky and expensive, often costing tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, even for a small business. For a short time period there, we had banner ads and pop-up ads, but those didn't last very long because they were intrusive to the user experience. Then we had affiliate marketing come along, and companies like Amazon prospered based upon other people recommending them. We got into AdWords. The problem with AdWords is that people had to actually be looking for exactly what it was that you were specifying on your website. And lots of people on the most popular words would bid on the same words, and it could get really expensive. Today, we have content management systems like WordPress, when combined with WooCommerce, allow anyone to have a professional website where you can sell your products and services. But most significantly, Facebook has totally changed internet marketing. Now anyone with any size of budget and no list at all can reach their exact target market. If your target market is 30 to 40-year-old soccer moms and you're trying to reach people within a 25-mile radius of Denver, you can reach those exact people for as little as $1 a day. Let me give you a specific example. I recently did a Facebook advertising campaign for a client. She paid me $200 to create the ad and monitor it for her, and paid Facebook $120 in the ad spend to reach 33,000 people. She got 750 people to click through directly onto her website where she was selling the advertised product for $20. That's $15,000, a factor of 47 times her investment. This truly is the golden age of internet marketing. It's time to abandon your fears about the economy, abandon your fears about the competition, and abandon your fears about technology. You need to create a mindset of expectations that you can succeed. There's a story of a scientist who had a fish tank with a northern pike in it. Now, a northern pike is an aggressive predatory fish, and he would feed that fish minnows every day. And that pike would go out there and he would attack the minnows and devour them. Well, one day the scientist put this glass tube inside the tank and he filled the tube with the minnows. That pike would slam his head into the thing. Be like, I need to get those fish. And it obviously hurt. He quit doing it after a while. And when he stopped, the scientist pulled that glass tube out, and the minnows swam all around that pike. There was abundance everywhere. That pike could have easily eaten his prey, but he ignored it and ended up starving himself to death. That's essentially where we are with the internet right now. There's abundance all over the place. My friend Kevin Knievel says it's kind of like being a mosquito on a nudist beach. So my question to you is, what's your ETA? When will you arrive at success? My recommendation is that you start right now. You see, you don't live once. You live every single day. You die once. But every day you have the choice and the opportunity to say, I want to be successful. I want to have expectations and thoughts and create actions that are going to drive me to that success. Now, if you really want to be successful, I recommend that you read my book. You've got a copy in your bag there. And I expect that this is going to be something that is going to empower you. And I think that you should read it. But you have to take action. Tony Robbins said that if you copy other people and do exactly what they're doing, you're going to get the same results that they do. And Jeff Bezos says that we take a look at our competitors, see what they're doing for customers, and copy those things as much as we can. So you need to copy people that are already being successful. In the book, I asked the question, what would Jeff do? Referring, of course, to Jeff Bezos. Jeff would obviously copy people that are being successful already. So what other things can you do to be successful? Well, one thing is, and Mitch mentioned this, I've got a program out there called Web Stores University. And basically, each week, I have an interview with somebody that is already a successful business person. Some of the people are people that you've never heard of. Other people are fairly common household names. But I have collected all these interviews and I put them together into Web Stores University so that you can see how other people are being successful with their businesses. And I'm adding to that every single week. I've also got a couple years worth of technical videos in there showing you how to run your website. So all of that is available in Web Stores University. It's a small monthly fee. It's like $37 a month. We're actually going to have a drawing for that tonight where somebody can get a year's worth of tuition for free. If you don't win that drawing, it's okay. You can still sign up, and I'm going to let you have the first month for only $1. So you have to take action tonight to get that special, however. Now let me conclude by telling you the story about my sister. When Donna was just a toddler, she was about 2 years old, she seemed to be crying all the time. No one could really figure out why. You know, when you're 2 years old, most of the time a cuddle from mom can kind of solve most of your problems. But for Donna, even the smallest hug would leave her in pain. My mom thought that, you know, the fact that she was crying all the time was her fault because she had 4 other kids and was trying to deal with cancer. But they took Donna to the doctor and an x-ray revealed the ugly truth. She was born with no left hip socket. She suffered from a condition known as hip dysfunction dysplasia, which basically means that the bones didn't form properly in the womb. They tried everything. They tried some corrective surgery to realign her femur, had her in a plaster cast from the waist down for like 6 months. Then they put her in this brace that spread her legs apart, where she was constantly doing the splits. My dad built this apparatus so she could kind of get around the house with it. But nothing worked. And my parents were basically told that their daughter would probably never be able to walk unaided. Well, my uncle was a Catholic priest, and he had the opportunity to go to Lourdes, France. And when he was there, he brought back with him some of the holy water. My parents applied that holy water to Donna's hip every day for 3 months. At the end of that 3 months, they went back into the doctor, and she walked in without a limp and without a brace. The doctor took new x-rays, and to his astonishment, she had grown a complete hip socket. To the medical community, this was a miracle. But as I said, your thoughts and your expectations do have physical manifestations. You become that which you think about, and you are that which you expect to be. My parents, they didn't just take action by applying the holy water. They truly had expectations and believed that their daughter could be healed. And as a result, she was. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for that empowering and inspirational talk. Our next speaker, Mr. Mitch Creighton. When was the last time you took a vacation? Mitch is a noted speaker, author, entrepreneur, and world traveler. His company, Creighton Travel, helps individuals, couples, families, and groups to see the world. Today, he'll discuss the importance of annual vacation time and why you need to plan now to see the places on your bucket list. Please help me welcome Mitch Creighton.
Have you had your vitamin T today? You probably had a vitamin A, a vitamin B. You probably took some good food this morning. You did something to help exercise and limber up your body. But I'm betting you didn't have vitamin T. And I'm here to report to you that you have a deficiency of vitamin T. And I'm going to share with you through a few stories why vitamin T is essential to your life. And the T in vitamin T is travel. I met Jane at the Innovation Pavilion just down the block here. Entrepreneur, hard-working entrepreneur, had a passion, a vision. Jane was going to build a new high-tech company, and she was going to be one of those nouveau riche multi-millionaires and ultimately sell out to a high bidder. And her journey begins by putting her plan together and working hard, and she finds people to work with her and build the prototype, and then she goes around trying to get some money, and the funds are difficult to get, so she's having to travel all over the country to get people to invest in her idea. She finally gets her first round of funding and hires her first group of people. Now, Jane is a very fun, brilliant individual. But Jane is now working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in so doing, Jane is so focused on the business that she's starting to have aches and pains. The people around her are noticing that she's a little snappy, that money is always on her mind, delivery dates are always on her mind. She's not sleeping much, she's not doing well. The company is showing growth, but they all say if Jane keeps this up, she'll burn out. Jane has a vitamin T deficiency. Now, Bob, on the other hand, Bob works for a large corporation. Bob is in the accounting department, and Bob also works very, very hard. He gets a salary, but he is indispensable. And he too is working many overtime hours. And the company keeps praising Bob. Bob, you're terrific. Bob, you're indispensable. Bob, don't ever leave. And so Bob, even though he is adding up all of his accumulated vacation for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, never takes a holiday. And he's proud to say, I've got 15 days of accumulated vacation. And you say, well, why don't you go on a trip? And Bob says, well, I can't. They can't operate without me. Really? Sylvia, on the other hand, is the matriarch of a wonderful family. Sylvia she's lived a fantastic life. And she lost her husband, and her husband left her in good financial stead. And Sylvia has wonderful grandkids, too. Sylvia wants to make sure that these grandkids get their entitled college education. And so she sacrifices everything. She spends none of her legacy on herself because she wants her kids, her grandkids, to have the college education so they'll be successful and remember her. Sylvia has a vitamin T deficiency. So when Jane comes in and talks to me, bloodshot eyes, completely slumped over shoulders, and said, you know, Mitch, let's have a cup of coffee. I got to talk about what's going on. And very often I will listen to entrepreneurs over the Innovation Pavilion, and they've got some operational issue, some financial issue, and I'm glad to advise. But she said, I am exhausted. And I said, well, you know what business I'm in? Let me send you away. Oh, well, what will happen? The people won't know what to do, and the bankers won't know who to call. And I said, well, if this business is really going to thrive, don't you have to trust and believe that they'll run the business just fine when you're not there? And what better way to test it than for you to take some time off? Do you have a bucket list of places you've been wanting to go? Oh, sure. You don't think I'm doing all of this just because I like working so hard. And I'm willing to bet if I asked everybody here in the audience today, do you have a bucket list? Do you have places you really want to see before it's the end of your time? And if you do, then why aren't you going? Excuse after excuse, the vitamin T deficiency is pretty bad. Now Bob is sitting there very proud that his company has such indispensable use of his time. And I met Bob at a mixer, and I said, Bob, you told me you have 15 weeks of vacation. What in the world? Why don't you take a holiday? Oh, well, I can't. They can't live without me. And I said, well, if working so hard is making you so stressful, and you had a heart attack and had to go into the hospital for 15 days, what then? Silence. I said, they're giving you a vacation because they want you to recycle your energy, to take a break. Sylvia, she has great intentions, and I must say I know a lot of seniors because I am one. And they want to leave a legacy to their grandkids. And I say to them, I have a couple of stories for you. I have people who have been heirs to some very large fortunes, who have taken that fortune and run it down the drain with great parties and extravagant spending, and they're miserable. So Sylvia says to me, well, what could I do differently? And I said, Sylvia, let me give you an idea. What if instead of giving your grandkids an education, which is something they should earn for themselves, you took the family on a family holiday? And you went away, and it was your treat. I ask you, will they remember the stories coming from that trip? Will they remember you? You bet. And she did that. And I got Jane to take a holiday. And I got Bob to take a holiday. I gave them a big dose of vitamin T. Why do we need to have a holiday? Why do we need to take a vacation and travel? You sleep every day. And I know all of you in the room have tried going without sleep for several days until you become a zombie. And not traveling has the same impact on your nervous system, your blood pressure, and everything else. We sleep because the brain demands it has to recycle itself. There are lots of things we've come to discover that the brain must reset itself every night. There are things in our mind, in our body that have to relax and reset so that when we wake up in the morning, we are refreshed and we are charged and we can do things. Travel is a bigger picture. It's a way to reset your entire world. How many in the room have traveled out of the country? Well, there you go. When you went, many of you went to places where they didn't speak your language, they didn't share our money, their customs and their food totally different. I'm guessing when you got back, you had some pretty cool stories to tell. I'm willing to bet that if I asked you, you could tell me that story right now. And as you tell me that story, you're going to stand up taller, your energy is going to get stronger, and you are going to feel like, wow, I get to relive that vacation all over again. And almost everybody says, I can't wait to go on another holiday. I can't wait to travel again. We still have a vitamin T deficiency. Why don't we travel? Why isn't that the same thing we do in our lives once a year that we do every night, going and getting some sleep? Common excuses. I can't afford it. I haven't got time. Who will take care of stuff when I'm gone? I have some ideas for you. When you leave here today, if I'm stimulating thought about bucket list, and it comes off of that movie about things I want to see and do before I die, write down on a piece of paper the 10 places, the 10 things you want to do before you are ready to say your farewell. And ask yourself, if you had to give anything up, would you trade something for one of those items on the bucket list? Whether it's the temples at Angkor Wat, it's dining at a Bordeaux chateau where you're drinking fresh wine that just comes right out of thieving of the barrels, or you're just on the beach of Hawaii, or trekking on a glacier in Scandinavia. Any of those things refreshes us because we don't do it here. We're also, when we travel, off of the grid. This dang thing has taken over our lives. And I want to share with you something that just happened to me this morning. My cousin was called up to Lebanon, Oregon. Internet sketchy at best. And she finally went to a Starbucks and said, Mitch, I had to communicate with you because I was hoping that I would be able to communicate with you sooner. Have you ever been off the grid for 3 days? Her very words. Now, you think getting off of drugs is bad, detoxing off of coffee is bad. Turn off your Facebook for a week and see what happens. You'll get calls from people saying, are you okay? Now, I grew up, I never had a phone in my pocket. I grew up, I never had Facebook. I never had Amazon.com. And the first 60 years of my life were pretty damn good, thank you very much. I'm willing to tell you that if you put this stuff away and lived in the moment of an island in the Tahiti area, or you went to an African veld and you saw the Big 5 game, how would that improve your life? John got the message. When John came back, he was empowered. People saw he was refreshed, renewed. Matter of fact, the managers were a little concerned because they thought he was having too head down into the paperwork. And there was a new vice president position that came up, and guess what John got? The vice president position. When Jane went away, she came back and said, by gosh, I hired the best of the best, and I was right. My business wasn't in the tank. The work got done. And I can proudly say that I have built an industry that is more than just me. What a great validation. And here's what happened to Sylvia. Sylvia did take her family to the Caribbean. And they got an all-inclusive resort. And there were things for the young kids to do, and there were things for the older kids to do, and there were things for the seniors to do. There were 70 of them that came together on this one little resort, and they had their own private beach, and they did all of these things. Do you think that helped Sylvia feel younger? Do you think that the young kids got to bond with the older kids, that the seniors got to bond with the new generation? And when they got back, the stories they would tell are the same stories that I'm asking you to recall when you went on your trip and people asked you, tell me about that trip. My friends, we do not live to work. We work to live. And if we don't take vitamin T seriously, we will have really, really cheated ourselves out of a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. Now, how do I know all of this? Well, folks, I'm in the travel business. What? Travel agencies still exist? Yes! And why is that? Well, Greg said that it's like mosquitoes on a nude beach. Too much stuff. Any of you tried seriously to look online for travel? Most people go to a minimum of 12 websites, and do you know what they get? Confused. And you know what happens then? They don't go anywhere. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing for you to go look for a hotel if you're going to fly to Chicago for a weekend, or you're going to look for tickets for a ball game or something like that, by all means. But if you're trying to really put together an experience that will have memories and have stories, why not seek help? So I am a travel concierge. I do work with folks. And in your bag, I'm offering my brain for you, for anything that you might have already booked or something you're thinking about booking, to just discuss it and see if I can give you some insight that will make that trip more memorable. One of the things we are, as I said early on, we're storytellers. And I think that when people hear stories, when people tell stories, they come alive. If you go to a movie and it's got a great story, you love it. If you got a movie and all it is bang bang and special effects, yeah, you were entertained, but you won't remember it 2 weeks later. So what do I want you to do? I want you to make memories, not regrets. And why am I so passionate? Well, it was 2 years ago. My wife and I had been in the travel business for a while, and we were very excited about the prospects of the year 2014. We were laughing at 8 o'clock in the morning. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, she yells out, "Mitch, I can't breathe." She fainted. I had the paramedics come. They revived her, but she was in a coma for 4 months before she passed away. She did not get to make all the memories that she wanted to do. I did not get to make the memories that I wanted us to have. Oh, I got a huge bucket list, and I'm sure you do too. So, put down that list. Start putting some money away in the bank every month. Some people have a little slush fund for this. Some people put away for their household expense. Put $100 a month away. You won't even know it. And then in your calendar, I want you to schedule a time when you're going to take a vacation. And that's an appointment that is just as strong, just as committed as if it were a client coming in to give you a check. Because for your health, for your mind, that travel is more valuable to you than any client's check ever. So vitamin T, where do you buy it? Well, it's not for sale. Travel is something that you do for yourself. I'm asking all of you, invest in yourselves and make memories, not regrets. You need to book a trip?
Thank you, Mitch, for that entertaining, inspirational talk, presentation. And moving on to our fourth speaker, Mr. Dennis Ryan. Dennis has combined the skills and training developed as a special ed teacher, retail sales manager, and professional speaker and workshop facilitator with a passion for discovering how we communicate. Melding his experience, observation, and research, he has developed a program called the Success-Focused Communication Process. This program is designed to provide leaders, managers, teachers, and parents with communication skills to create a positive environment for the individuals they communicate with. Please help me welcome Dennis Ryan. It can be done.
Imagine you're a teacher and every one of your students is empowered. They want to learn. They want to take responsibility for their learning, for their behavior, for their lives. Imagine if you're a business owner, heck, just a manager or a supervisor. Wouldn't it be great if everybody around you and people you worked with took responsibility, were empowered, and could do things for themselves instead of you having to tell them what to do? Any of you parents, once were parents, have parents? What if your children were empowered to be responsible? Yes. Wow. Amazing. For their lives. What if you were empowered? What if you would do the things you know you want to do? Take that next step rather than just, God, I wish I could do that, or I wish I would do that. Oh, I got too much to do, so I can't do what I want to do. What if you became empowered? Ladies and gentlemen, it can be done. A friend of mine, Steve J., and I, in our garage, we have invented the magic pen. This is the special pen that empowers people. You take the top button and you point it at the person you want to be empowered.
I'm empowered.
And then you hit, not yet, I haven't hit you with the empowering button.
Oh.
Doesn't take much for Mitch.
I am now very empowered.
Amazing. It's this simple device. It's all it takes. It's just to point it, direct it, and press the button and everybody becomes empowered. Don't we wish that were true?
Yes.
And for just 4 easy payments of $39.99, this too can be yours.
All right.
I'll send you the information on where you can send your checks. Money orders, credit cards, make sure they're covered and they're not closed. I get too many closed credit cards for these. Let me try it again. Okay, I've identified my target. You're empowered. What?
No.
Not? I need a new battery. We're waiting for an app. We're waiting for a hack. We're waiting for something that makes it easy. It isn't easy. I'm going to tell you today, it is simple. But like anything else that's of value, it is not easy. And the way you empower others is through that core skill that we all have, but we don't develop, that we don't use to its full capacity. It's called that skill of communication. How many of you drive down the street, or when you were driving here, how many of you saw fitness studios, karate, dance, all sorts of different ones? One every block, at least, if not 2. How many of you saw communication studios anywhere? You didn't see any? You mean communication's not as important as fitness? Not that I'm saying fitness isn't important. It is important. But isn't communication the one way we can relate to people? Isn't that just as important, if not more important than fitness? It's through communication that you can empower others. Because it's through communication that you can create an environment that not only allows people to be empowered, you can expect people to be empowered, and almost demands that people become empowered through using communication skills. The Success Communication Program gives you skills that you can use to empower others and yourself. Because it explains why it's necessary to focus your energy, i.e. your communication energy, in the direction of what you want to happen. We have a tendency in this world to focus at what's happened, what's wrong, what the cause was. Anybody get real excited with a mistake? Doesn't it just get you so empowered? Yeah, I just made a mistake. I feel good. Doesn't work. Look up the synonyms for failure. Look them up someday. See if any of those words empower you to do better. That give you energy. That gives you that drive that I'm going to fix this. They don't. What do? They sap it. They suck it out of you. Now look up success. What are other meanings of the word success, or just plain success? What does that do for you? Can you think of being successful? Does that give you energy? Would it give other people energy? So the first thing is that communication has a direction. It can take you forward. It can push you back. It can hold you down. It can lift you up. So whenever you communicate, understand that everything you communicate has a direction. And when you're communicating with someone, it is taking them in that direction. So when you communicate and you take them backwards, what happens? Do they get excited? Do they get just so excited they want to do everything for you? Are they getting empowered? Let's take a little story here. Sally and Billy are twins. They're playing outside. Obviously, they're not identical twins. It's a joke, but I hate when you have to explain those jokes. They're outside, they're playing, and all of a sudden Sally comes in, and the parent figure is there, and Sally says, "Billy just hit me." And so as a parent figure, you said, "Billy, come in here." So what do we say? "Billy, why did you hit Sally?" So what direction was our communication? Backwards. And what did happen? Did that empower Billy? It empowered him to think of excuses, probably, to get defensive. The only person who got empowered were you as a parent, because now you're judge, jury, and probably executioner. What happens instead? If you ask Billy the question, what are you going to do to cooperate and play better with your sister? Now, is that negative? What did you ask for? You asked for and identified a success. Something that Billy can work towards, that he can feel good about doing. It didn't ask him to be defensive. It didn't ask him to come up with all the excuses in the world. "Well, Sally hit me last week." And it didn't ask him to say, "I don't know." Of course, that's a standard answer for either way. But then that's a starting point. You're moving forward. You're going in a forward direction. So the first thing you need to understand with communication, that you have to be focused in the direction of what you want to happen. Let's say you work in a business and you're a manager, supervisor, owner, and you have this employee that is constantly late. What's the standard question? "Why are you late?" Now, is that forward or backwards? It's backwards. Because you asked them about what has happened. You're asking them to be defensive, to come up with excuses. And the other thing you just did is you put yourself in the position to having to solve that problem. Because you asked the question. You asked them to tell you why They were late, so what are you going to do when they tell you? My car breaks down every day. Okay, now what? Now you're in that position. Nobody was empowered because you certainly can't solve that problem. Instead, the question becomes, what are you going to do to get to work on time? You've moved it towards what the success is. You've outlined the success. You've created an environment that is asking them to come up with a solution. Does it work? I'll give you a name of a junior high school principal. He says it even works on middle school boys. Anybody recognize any of those? A few of you once were there. But instead of asking them what the cause of a problem was, she asked them for the solution or what the success would be. And it was absolutely amazing, she said. She didn't think it would work. She thought, that's not going to work. They'll just come up with more excuses. It worked because they started thinking about what they need to do to be successful. It's powerful. And you know, it's common sense. We've probably all done it. We've all asked those good questions occasionally. And we've had success with it. But it's got a little problem. It's common sense, but it's not common practice. Because we've grown up in a world where we're looking for the saber-toothed tiger behind the bush. But we're not in that world anymore. We have to open up and look at what's in front of us. That's where we live. We've got to live in a direction of what's in front of us, not what's behind us. Now, do we want to forget about what's behind us? What is it? We're doomed to repeat it. But we don't focus on it. We just learn from it. We go back and maybe say, hey, was there anything that happened that I learned that's going to help me go forward? So we build an environment with our communication that empowers other people. In fact, we can talk to ourselves the same way. That's how you empower others and yourself, by asking the right kinds of questions that are structured and narrow. Now, what do you want to do? That's a wide open world. Just like I work in a grocery store. That was where I did most of my management. You can go down the aisle where the salad dressings are. Pick a salad dressing. Anybody have any idea how many there are? Anybody look in the salad dressing aisle lately? Yeah. There's 300 plus, and that doesn't count the oil and vinegar aisle. So if you have that wide open decision making, it's too much. We're not designed to handle it. There's too many choices. So when you structure your questions and you ask these questions about success, narrow it. What are you going to do to cooperate with your sister? What are you going to do to get to work on time? It's more specific. Now, what's the next step? What would the next step be? Because obviously asking one question, it's not going to solve everything. If it did, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be with Jeff Bezos somewhere and on his yacht. It's simple, but it's not easy. What's the next step? The next step is listening. And what you listen for is clues. So you have to actively listen to that person. Listen to their response to your question. What is their response telling you? Not listening to answer it, but listen for the cues so you know the direction of their question. And then you take that thing and take it back to the forward direction. A lot of them, I remember talking to one of my sons, and he, of course, wanted to take it backwards. He's always had the argument, well, what do you want me to do? And you're going to get that. So you have to reframe the question and start over again. Is there a simple way of doing it? Is there these words I can give you printed on this piece of paper and you say these words and they'll be empowered? Sorry. that's somewhere with this magic pen. $39.99, 4 easy payments, and I'll give you that list. No, what you have to do is develop your own personal bank of questions that work for you. You're going to try different ones, and that's the hard part of it. You've got to keep building. Now, I don't have 3 or 4 hours, though. If you want, I can come and talk to you for 3 or 4 hours, and we can talk about all the steps. Because I love to go into businesses, companies, organizations, and explain and run workshops on how to take success-focused communication and empower everyone in the company. Empower students to take responsibility for their education, for their behavior. Anybody try to tell a student or tell anyone to do that? You're now empowered. You're empowered. Does it work? No. You have to create that environment, and there are ways to do it. It can be done. But you have to invest the time and energy. But there is a path. And the path isn't the one we've used. What does that saying go? Try something again and again. If it doesn't work, try it the same way, and it still won't work. Other versions. But there is a way to do it, and this is a different way to try. Go forward and look at success. What does it look like? Once you know what you want to happen, then you can easily ask questions in the right way to help other people focus in the direction of success. In your bags, because I love communication, there's a little free thing for you. Anybody have a presentation to do? A workshop or something you have to do? Or a talk maybe before your church or an organization or work? I'll give you an hour free coaching on how to do that better and raise the bar. The other thing, hopefully in the drawing we're going to have later, I'll go into your business organization for 4 hours and we'll analyze it. We'll find a way to take it up and be more successful. And when you're more successful, what happens in your life? Is there less stress? Yes. Less conflict? Isn't it a much better place to live and work when you can focus on success rather than all the failures? Now, how do you do it? Well, I give you a little hint. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to talk again, and I can give you a bigger hint. But you still have to do it. It's no great secret. It's just taking those ideas, putting them together, and focus on the success and focus on what you want to happen. It can be done. You can empower others.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've had 4 wonderful perspectives on empowerment, both personal and empowering others, that we hope is beneficial.